So, what's up, and welcome to another episode of the House of Jazz podcast. I am your host, Jasmine Cherie, and just like any other house, we got house rules, just like anybody else. So, rule number one in the House of Jazz is choose you and watch everything else choose you too, because that's what's going to be like the center and the essence of what this podcast stands for. Mm-hmm. And rule number two is revert back to rule number one. Now, if we had a rule number three would be that what we share in the House of Jazz, you can share out everywhere else. See, I'm a country girl. And in the country, we learn what goes on in this house, stay in this house. Well, not at the House of Jazz. I need you to share it with all your friends. Now, if you hear something that resonates with you, if you hear something that, you don't really like rock with, drop that in the comments. I mean, that's the only way we're going to grow. That's the only way we're going to know. All right? So, without further ado, this is part two. Welcome to part two with my homegirl, Jasmine Smith from Jasmine Smith Photography. Hey, girl.
Hey, girl. Hey.
How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing good, and welcome back. Like we hadn't even got off this seat.
Right.
We've been sitting here. Mm-hmm. And we just doing a part two.
Yes.
Because I loved our first session, but we started talking about therapy.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And see, I know growing up, therapy, going to counseling, it was kind of made like it was a negative thing. Mm-hmm. Was that for you too? Mm-hmm. Like, oh, you
like, what's wrong with you?
What's wrong with you? Mm-hmm. I need to talk to somebody.
Right.
Listen, that's real too, because a lot of times we end up in spaces where we need to share, talk to people, and pour, and we can't because we don't feel safe. Or you have those people like, oh no, you need to handle that yourself. Be strong.
Right.
Especially black women, be strong. And our men too. Our men need to talk to people, but sometimes they're a little bit hard-headed. But I can understand because again, when we talk about safe spaces,
right,
it's not all the time that our men, our black men, feel safe.
Right.
Talking about, things that they probably need to get off their chest. But therapy.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but I've been in therapy faithfully. This is no cap. I have been in therapy faithfully since, I want to say 2021. I'm talking about every week. I know some people go like 2 times a month or whatever. And I think since that time, if we didn't meet that week, either we rescheduled, and maybe I did like a double session, or we just didn't meet that week. But I could count on one hand since 2021, and it's 2023 at the time of the taping. I can count on one hand
the times that you missed.
Yeah, times that I missed. The time, yeah.
Wow.
Like even when I would travel. Hey, my girl, I'm traveling.
Right.
I'm gonna be gone during my session.
Virtual visits.
And she's virtual though. So she's been like a godsend to me.
Yeah.
Like no lie. And I tell people all the time, my therapist, I gotta see if I can get on the podcast. Keep saying it. I tell people all the time, my therapist, she feels like my friend. I know she ain't my friend. And she abide by the rules, but she feels like my friend, which makes it easier for me to share.
Same. With her.
Tell me about your therapy experience, girl.
Yes. So I actually found my therapist through my coach. So my coach had my therapist come on and talk to us about how trauma shows up in our business. And as she was going through the presentation, I'm like, I got a lot of trauma.
Surprise!
I'm like, hold up.
I'm dealing with some stuff.
I'm like, hold up. And then stuff started happening with family, and there were like actual other mental illness issues happening with family members. And I was just like, oh no, I gotta talk to somebody because I'm not gonna keep this in. Because what I have seen time and time again is those of us that just keep brushing stuff to the side, keep pushing stuff under the rug. Over time, that takes a humongous toll on your body, on your mental, on your spiritual, and it just starts to bleed into everything. Yeah. And it's like, I feel like what ends up happening is you start to spiral because basically this small thing that probably started out small, you've just harbored on it for so long that basically what your brain starts doing is just start connecting all these random stories, and you can't tell from what's a real story versus one that you made up in your head.
Absolutely.
And
then it still could be a real story for you,
could.
but then your perception of things based off of how you've been, I want to say conditioned, or like the tools and the resources are programmed with your upbringing from different experiences that you've had with people. This is how we start to like, you know, make up those stories. But one thing I love about therapy is it gives you a place to say freely,
right,
even if this is your story, this is my story,
right,
what's going on? How can I handle this? What does this mean or not mean? Or give me a different perspective about what could really be happening. So that's interesting that you met your therapist through your coach.
Yeah.
That also screams to how important community is.
Very.
And so you noticed that you were dealing with trauma, and I'm gonna get into how I met my therapist too, but you noticed that you were dealing with trauma. What's some of the trauma that you, give me one, you got, not everything, girl, don't share what you want.
We ain't diving in, but my thing was like self-sabotage, and it still is a thing.
Tell me about, in what area? Because you know that can be, I see a lot of people do that a lot.
So, but my thing was, I didn't see it as self-sabotage until she flipped it for me.
Okay, so what was the self-sabotaging thing, and how were you viewing it before your therapist allowed you to see a different perspective?
Perfectionism. That's self-sabotage. And it's something I still, even today, am struggling with, but it's dramatically better than what it was.
Yeah.
But I remember just like growing up, because I was a very high-achieving student, and I'm a high-achieving Black woman still, and it's just always, and just in general, because I was the oldest, and then that became a thing because it's just like, oh, you're the oldest, so now everybody looking at you, and it's just always conditioned me to feel like I have to be on it at all times. And that over time is what like leads to your burnout, because you're so busy trying to be whatever to whoever,
and half of the time you don't even have like a goal or a target to hit. You don't even know. You just going. You're just doing. I call it living a performance-based life. That's what I've done all of my life.
I like that.
Living a performance-based life. And for me, I could just go back and like recall. Like, so I have an older brother who's 11 years older than me. And then it's me, and then I have a sister that's 8 years younger than me in my mom's home. Okay, that's one of them families. All right. But anyways, like, I know that there were some things that my mom may have done or not done with my brother that she wanted to make sure that did not happen with me. So for one, when it came to his education, he was intelligent, but he had a very hard time with what we thought was like reading comprehension and stuff like that. Because of the resources, the lack of resources or information that we get as Black people in certain communities, and like, again, I was born in the South, we didn't find out till my brother was 30, knocking on 40, that he was dyslexic. But to everybody else, he had a learning disability or a challenge, or he couldn't read, and it wasn't that. It's just that he didn't see the words like everybody else, and he needed other resources to help him be able to access the curriculum. Which people don't tell you. They just want to throw our little brown boys in these settings sometimes when they don't even need it like that, or they put them in the settings and don't give them the proper resources. But that's a whole another topic. But when it came to the education, I understood that my mom wanted something different for me, and so she started with me really early with educational things, books, and so because of that, and because of trauma that she had experienced, because of her own probably hurt school system hurt, there are so many things that were put on me that it was like always time for me to perform, get those good grades. When it comes to home life, this is what's expected. And through that, it calls for me to try new things and then find out I was good at things. And once other people find out that you're good at things, now
They expect you to perform.
They expect for you to perform. And so all of my life I've been performing.
Yep.
And a lot of the time, and I had started to believe that I liked it.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
I thought I liked it. And parts of me still do. But it's just recently that I realized that I don't know if I really like these things, or do I like the fact that people know that I can do them and I can perform well at them.
Yeah.
I don't really like these things, but I do know that in my life, and I don't know if you experienced this as well, but in my life, it's always something for something. And people think, oh, well, that's what life is, but not all the time.
No, not all the time.
You can just be sometimes. But that's a condition to break. But I like the whole self-sabotage, the perfectionist, to live in a performance-based life. And so how did your therapist get you to see that you were self-sabotaging with perfectionism?
Because what my perfectionism looks like in my business is I would just sit on content. Just sit on it.
Oh, scared to put it out?
Yeah, scared to put it out because I'm just like, oh, I don't know if this is good enough, or oh, I kind of want to find this transition, or oh, I think I could do another clip. And I'm just like basically making BS excuses at this point of why I can't do X, Y, Z. And what she started to make me realize, she was just like, okay, Jasmine, this is your goal. You've already told me this is your goal, right? You know what you got to do to get to that goal. But your perfectionism is literally like your block in between here. So once she kind of put that in there, she's like, you don't even, because she knows like one of my favorite quotes. One of my favorite quotes is like, to be perfect is to be imperfect. She's like, if you know that, why are you still striving for perfectionism? And then what ended up coming out was, it's how I was raised. So always having to perform, always being the oldest. Like in my household, A's were that's it.
That's it. That's all you get, baby.
Yeah.
You may not come in here with no B.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I got one.
Right. And like my issue was math. It wasn't even that I was bad in math. I would get like an 88 or an 89.
Not good enough.
But it wasn't good enough. And what I realized is, she was just like, because of that, she's like, that's literally what you have been conditioned. So if it's not an A in your eyes, or if it's not an A in somebody else's eyes, thinking of like vanity metrics,
right? When
it comes to social
media, and it's really the somebody else's eyes.
Right, it's the somebody else's eyes. Out of always seeking validation, she was like, you're self-sabotaging yourself. Because you are looking for validation from other people for what you already know that you are well equipped for.
You know what? Spiritually, I just met with one of my former principals who's very like, he's so dope. But one thing he said spiritually and from the Bible, he was just like, God already knows that we're imperfect. Exactly. So why do we put the pressure on ourselves to be perfect? He was like, I know I'll never be enough for my wife, so why do I put that on myself? I know I'll never be enough for like these people or that people. And I was like, wait a minute now. Because when he said the wife thing, it kind of threw me off. Yeah. And I was like, what do you mean by that? And he was like, no, what I'm saying is people have to find a deeper thing and a deeper meaning. And he was really referencing, God, because God is that thing that molds. But he was trying to get me to understand that, okay, your relationship with God, your spirituality, that's the other part that anchors you. Nobody else can be everything to you that you would need. And in that sense, you will never be enough. So why do you put the pressure on yourself to do that when it's already been laid out in a good book that you're imperfect, that without God, you're not complete, so to speak. It's not through people and all those things. And I was like, dang, that makes sense.
It does. And it's actually ironic that you say that, because I'm from the South too, raised in a church, very much a church girl. But when it came to my business, for some reason, it was a disconnect. I really wasn't having those conversations with God in regards to my business.
Ooh, girl. Ooh.
So I'm sitting here until recently. So now me and him, we here.
On the same page.
But in the past, I was sitting looking for guidance from coach to coach, sitting here buying all these different programs, doing all this stuff. But then I'm just like, I just had to talk to him.
Girl.
I'm sitting here trying to find it from everybody else.
Girl.
All this flesh, but I ain't talking to him.
Girl. And then we be lost.
But then the moment, literally, the moment I just gave it all to him, and I'm just like, I'm just gonna trust you, you go lead the pathway. When I tell you, it's got to the point now where I could think stuff in my head and then an inquiry will come through my
Girl,
thing.
I'm trying to get there. Teach me how to do that.
And I'll be like, well, damn, Lord. I know you got it, but Lord, okay.
But I'm gonna be real with you. Like, I know everything that you just said. You said something earlier before we were on camera. You said something about what's the reset thing you said? A constant reset? Oh.
Yeah. So you're always having to constantly reset, because we were talking about mindset. And I was just like, I feel like it's a constant reset because, you know, something will happen and that mindset, you know, we're human. We're going to fall into that doubt, fall into, oh, okay, like maybe this ain't right. But I have to constantly reset myself to be like, there's another, you know, there's a better planning process. Right. So like let's say if you get in a car accident or if you have any kind of bill that pops up, unexpected bill, now I am like, yes, I don't feel like paying this, or I may or may not have it. Because our HVAC went out this summer. So when that all happened, I literally just like, you know what, Lord, I know you gonna make a way. 2 weeks later, wedding. Literally the exact amount.
But I ain't even gonna lie.
Of the HVAC.
I get you, sis, and I believe that, right? But if I'm being totally honest, it's a struggle for me. Because I know all these things. I believe them too.
But
but more, that's what I was about to say, but more for other people than I do myself.
You got to believe for you.
Right. But here's the thing. It's the constant reset in my mind. I have to, like, and I'm talking about more frequently. I have to constantly reset my mind to know, to think, to believe that. Because, again, I'm in a season of transition.
Right.
Everything is out of my control right now. And the only thing that the first thing that I was told to do was just share. Don't promote anything. Don't promote your services. It's time to talk. I've had this idea of the podcast since 2018. Talked about it and everything, but I've never done it. But then I got laid off. All this stuff happened. It was like, now it's time. Like, I had been trying to come up with like podcast names and all this stuff. But then when I got that whole download, me and God had a conversation. He was like, it's time to share. And I was like, bro, what am I going to talk about? You know? And he was like, don't worry about it. Just share.
Just share. House
of Jazz came up and it was just like, hey, can we record? Yeah, let's go. It's been those types of things. It's been bill after bill, but ain't nothing. I know I'm kept, but my main point is I have to constantly remind myself. And even earlier on in the day, even yesterday, I was in tears because unexpectedly something happened. Right. And I'm like, oh my God, here we go. And I just feel so like out of control. And it's like God just keeps nudging and doing stuff like, nah.
Right. How often do you open your Bible?
It has been more recently. But at one point in time, it was like, not at all. And I ain't gonna lie, like I started growing up in the South. Right. You know, they have a certain way of teaching this Bible. And even being here in Atlanta, it was some church hurt that was there too. I'm gonna do a whole nother episode on that. But some stuff literally happened at one of these churches that I went to. I've never shared. Probably a couple people now. But yeah, anyways, so I left. Especially after the Caleb thing, I left too. The community in the church was, you know, good, but there were just like things that just happened, and I left the physical body of the church for a while. Always believed in God. Y'all don't come for me.
But you know, that doesn't, because like me physically, I'm not like physically going to my church a lot.
Yeah.
I'll be watching, you know, stuff online, things like that. But like me physically being in the church, it doesn't happen so much anymore, because what I have also realized as an adult, what we were raised in is completely different. Even like when it came to like certain practices, I've always been like, but that's hypocritical.
Baby, tell the truth, shame the who?
Yeah,
the
like,
devil.
it's hypocritical. Because I'm just like, if I'm saying thou shalt not judge, but then you go sit here and tell me all gay people going to hell, like,
Don't make sense.
it don't make sense. I'm like, we all God's people.
And God is rooted in love, but
So
it's so
like-
much hate. You know, it's
It's just so much.
it's a lot.
But what I've started to do in the mornings, I literally just open my Bible and I just flip through. And I don't know what it is, but literally it's like I just keep getting led to like, it's either an affirmation to a doubt that I had, or it's a motivation to keep pushing me to whatever the next thing was. So I feel like me reading it is him talking to me. It's just conversational.
You know what's funny is because I realized in this transition and growing my relationship with God is that He literally speaks my language. And here's what I mean. People may think it's crazy.
He funny too.
He funny. So, you know, I really love social media. And I'm really good at it. I think I'm really good at it because I love it. And I love marketing. So He sends random people to tell me random things at random times. And I can always get this feeling when it's from Him and not from just some random person. I mean, just like any old person. On top of that, because He knows where I spend the most of my time due to my business, He sends things through social media to me. I believe that. And He also told me, because you love this so much, this is where you got to share too. And so the content that I started sharing after He gave me instructions to share, don't promote anything, don't do anything, was on social media. And that content, with no strategy, no nothing, has done well.
Good.
More than anything that I've created in the last probably year.
Really?
It's been more impactful. My DMs, like, it's crazy the amount of people that have reached out, shown support, but just said how transformational what I was saying. And I'm literally just saying what I'm going through and telling people what God told me. That's it. And then when He led me to promote a service, then I got my first 2 clients in a while. So that was dope. And I say all that to say is that peace, that God peace, that reset in my mindset, that's something that I still have to work on, because I get in my flesh a lot. And even like I shared on one of my reels, I have a hard time trusting God because I have a hard time trusting myself. And I have a hard time trusting myself because I've made a lot of mistakes that I feel like have me in the position that I'm in. And that leads back to another thing that He told me, because I'm like, hey, we got this stuff going on. Why isn't this working? And He literally said forgiveness. And I'm like, forgiveness? What I got to do with the business, God? He was like, because you stuck over here. You need the business to work because this right here didn't work. But in order for you to get this to work, you need to forgive this over here. So you can let that go and be free to create over here. Because I'm a creator. I can't create with stuff on my shoulders. I can't create with things on my back. I just cannot. It's almost impossible for me to create. I have to be free. And so in order for me to free myself from over here is forgiveness. And I was like, nah, God, you know how I feel about that. And He said, I understand. But the reason why you having trouble freeing yourself and forgiving these over here is because you won't forgive yourself for the mistakes that you've made.
Right.
And I said, sir, why you just breaking that thing down to me like that?
Right.
So I'm in a real process of forgiving myself, learning how to trust myself again, all the things.
Because really, forgiveness, I see forgiveness as more of a benefit to like you. Because I feel like once you let that power go by forgiving them, that's almost like cutting the string.
Yeah.
But then you still be connected to forgiving yourself.
Yeah. It is definitely that. And the other part to that too, because you hear people say that all the time. And my pastor, I just rejoined the church, girl. My pastor said something to the effect of, the reason why you really need to forgive those people is because at the end of the day, they can never repay you for what they took from you.
True.
They can never repay you. He said, just think about it. If it was a thief, right? If it was a family member, somebody stole some money from you
Right.
that you needed to pay your rent, your mortgage, or whatever, and it set you behind, or you weren't able to do it, they can apologize all they want to, but the inconvenience that it caused, the different things that it caused, it would never, that would never be able to be repaid.
Exactly. Yes.
So, so tell me what we talked about, the self-sabotaging. We talked about the perfectionist in you. Is there any other thing that you, like what's another impactful thing that you've learned with your therapist?
I don't know if I learned this in therapy or if I just finally put 2 and 2 together.
Did therapy help?
Yeah, therapy definitely helped. But remember when we were talking about how the way it took me a while to put God in my business?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like you could also resonate with this, is in school, we are always taught, literally almost like drilled, the separation between church and state.
Baby, listen. Yeah, you're right.
So if I'm a teacher, and mind you, I started teaching fresh out of college. So all I know prior to May, when I left, was the school system. So like literally even realizing, now that did come from therapy, is her saying, you have always been in the same construct your entire life. So she's just like, you leaving that to go do your own thing. She said, that's why you're struggling, because this is literally all that you know.
You've been conditioned.
I have been conditioned my entire life. So it's a deconditioning in my transition to be an entrepreneur. And the deconditioning also was adding him into the picture. Because I've always been told that, you know, he at church and that's it when it comes to school. So when I finally decided, there is no church and state, I'm the state.
Yeah.
So once I put him in there, I was just like, okay, this is so much easier. But then now it also makes me think, what would happen if the school actually really did that?
I mean, I'm gonna do you one better, because it's not just separating church and state, not having, you know, church or the Bible or religion or whatever in school. Like, it goes from church to the outside world too. Again, my pastor talks a lot about that, about how in order to do the work that we're supposed to do here, that God, our God purpose here is not to separate ourselves from the people.
Right.
So, from what I've observed, there is a box that you put church people in, and then it's the rest of the world.
True.
And so we're always separate, like it's school, and that is separate.
Right.
And so when it comes to you trying to live a harmonious life, you have to figure out what that looks like. And I think that's why a lot of people struggle, not with religion, but having a relationship with God, period.
Right.
Because it's been compartmentalized. all our lives,
Whole life.
compartmentalized. So I think that's good. So you've literally had to like deconstruct in this transition.
Yeah.
And learn how to actually consult with God about your business. Because, I mean, I ain't just keeping it real. Oftentimes, we out here just trying to do what we got to do.
Right.
We're following responsibilities and not anything that's really rooted in who we are at our core.
And that's what I have start to see in my clientele. Is like when I talk to them and they start telling me their stories, I see a connection within myself to their story. And I'm just like, okay, God, I see what you're doing. Like you are literally aligning me with people that are, you know, connected in all the random facets that I have in life. And I love it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it.
And that's what, I know we don't supposed to be talking about business, but we ain't gonna separate it. But that's what I think is very interesting, is that as somebody who loves marketing,
Right.
As people who own businesses and we have to make sales and all of that stuff, at the end of the day, we take the supernatural out of that because we feel like it's only just strategy and this and talking to your ideal clients and this, that, and the other. But when you start to include, as it should be, then things will start to align more than what they did when you were just going by strategy alone.
Because I feel like prior to, there was no strategy. Where's the strategy? It wasn't there.
Yeah.
And just looking for answers from everybody and anybody, and then not realizing there's a lot of snakes out there.
Girl, we got to get into these coaches, honey. Now listen, I ain't gonna lie. I have been fortunate enough to have some pretty decent,
Me too.
not just decent, but good coaches.
Right.
Now I will say that I know that I caught some of my coaches on the beginning parts of like what they've built.
Right.
And I kind of wish I would have caught them on
Where it's at now.
Because inevitably some things get missed.
Right.
But then being in this industry, especially in Atlanta, and certain stuff you start to see and pick up on certain things, and you know, people are more. You want to talk about it?
Lord.
Oh.
How much time we got?
Girl, we got a little time. I mean, what has been your experience with your coaches?
Most of my coaches have been good. I haven't had a coach that did me dirty. I will say that. But I will say people that may have came from a coach did.
Explain that.
So let's see, without saying names, because I'm not going to be that messy. So I'm a coach, and, you know, as coaches, we, you know, as resources, share our people, right? But how that person that you referred, how they treat you is how that's not how they treat everybody else.
So they put people on the pedestal and they choose
and they
based
pick
on
and
the
choose.
people how they're going to serve instead of just serving.
Exactly. Or people who are one way on social media.
Ooh, and totally different.
And completely different.
Baby, that's like one of my biggest fears. Not really a fear, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, like it's a hot mess. Like it's a person who they're all about the marketing, all about all the things, branding.
But then they're not.
I paid them, it's been 3 years.
You paid them what for what, and it's been 3 years?
I paid them for my branding.
Ooh.
And they did nothing.
Girl, you're going to have to tell me who this is on the back end,
not
on camera.
I will. And the funny thing is, this same person has come up in so many other conversations from my clients who had the same interaction with the person.
And see, another reason why it ain't self-sabotaging for me. Because you said some things that had like kept you stuck. But even though I know I'm dope at what I do, what ain't about to happen is you ain't about to catch me up in no conversation talking about she didn't deliver what she said she was gonna deliver.
Exactly.
So that makes me want to make sure this stuff is tip-top shape, because I don't ever want anybody to feel like that about me. Right. So I keep myself back when I need to be pushing forward, because I ain't trying to be up in these scamming conversations.
Right. Because like Atlanta, we known for it.
It's the A, baby. It's the A.
So it's like, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing.
But 3 years?
3 years. And at this point, I don't even care. This is the funny thing. So I paid person, they were supposed to give it to me. They didn't do it. I'm the type, I'm be like, F it, I'm gonna just figure it out myself. I figured it out myself. Came up with the brand that you all see today. And everybody loves it. But this person tried to comment on it. Ma'am.
Oh, we gotta talk about that off the camera.
Like, don't be telling me about my colors when you couldn't give me none.
Ooh.
Don't be telling me about my fonts when you could give me none.
Ooh. And you paid?
Right. Because this is the thing that I would say to any entrepreneur. You cannot use your personal life as an excuse to not perform with what you were paid for. Because are you gonna go to a 9 to 5 and be like, oh, I'm sad and my boyfriend did this and the boyfriend did this, and they be like, oh, okay, you could just take off for X amount of days. No, it don't work like that.
Yeah, you're gonna take the days that you got, and if you take more than that,
exactly
consequences.
So I'm like, you can't do that. You cannot. And then to try to make that excuse for years, bruh, no.
Years.
So it's like at this point, it's fine, because I feel like I'm almost thankful when situations like that happen, because one is showing me people's real true colors, is allowing me to know who I will and who I won't refer people to, because I will never refer a person to this person. Because then once you start doing that, you are connected to them.
Oh yeah, and I care about my name.
They gonna be like, oh, well, you sent me this, so now you're gonna be questioning me because of old Pooh Shiesty over here. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Not Pooh Shiesty. Old Pooh Shiesty over here.
Ain't nobody got time for that. So
yeah, don't play with my name.
Yeah,
I don't play with my reputation, my character. I don't play about it.
I stand 10 toes down on what I say I'm gonna do is what's gonna happen.
Yeah. And
beyond.
Yeah. Not like Pooh Shiesty though.
Yeah. I really don't even know who Pooh Shiesty is.
But that was a good game though. Don't be acting like Pooh Shiesty. Sheesh. I'm still stuck on 3 years.
Yeah. It was the beginning of COVID. And I was in that kick like, oh, I need to get it all together.
Listen, that when they get you, but when you on that high, you be like, let's get it, let's go.
But it taught me a lot of lessons. So I'm just like, that the lesson in itself was the investment. Because now I know.
Come on.
I know moving forward, I can read in between the lines and I can see.
And then you learn what not to do or what you don't want your business to be like or how you don't want to operate.
Exactly.
I also know what I've learned is the strengths, my real strengths, not just stuff that I can do, but my real strengths and how I want to operate and move forward. Yes. So that I don't have to take on things or clients or responsibilities that I either don't want to do or don't need to do because they aren't my true strengths. But yeah, stuff like that make me self-sabotage. So I'm like, baby, listen, I'd rather stay out these streets like that.
Right.
Because I don't want anybody, even though I know I wouldn't do anybody like that, because I ain't gonna lie, you do have people that lie too.
Yeah.
You do have them clients that lie and be like, oh, I ain't do this, I ain't get that, you know. Very few and far between. Because most of the time, if your name keep coming up in situations,
right,
who lying?
yeah, it's like if it's a consistent thing, and I keep hearing the same story,
Yeah.
in different situations,
Yeah.
it's you.
Yeah. Dang, is that something you talked about in therapy too?
What, with her?
With that situation.
No, because it's like something that I like
You figured it out?
Yeah,
Girl.
it didn't do no damage to me.
Girl, stuff like that do damage to me. I talk to my therapist about everything. I'm talking about everything.
Most of my issues when it comes to therapy, it's got way better, but I had an issue with feeling guilty about my success.
Oh, girl. I ain't never felt that one.
So my guilt was, let's say, like, if I'm doing something like my set of friends, and I'm the one that's, keep going up, and then they're, down in the dumps, I feel guilty.
Girl, that
to
ain't
share my success.
Girl, that
because then I'm just like, okay, I feel like I need to dim my light because you were in a dark place, and I don't want to just be like, hoorah, my life is going great while you sitting here, struggling.
Yeah, I hear that. Now I finally have met somebody who actually struggles with that
Yeah, because it was definitely a thing, and it still is a thing. Now it gets to the point where I just don't share them. I just don't share my wins. I share my wins with people who will appreciate them and not like feel some kind of way about them.
Yeah,
because that's what I was getting.
Oh, child.
But it's like what my therapist made me realize. She was just like, "That's a them thing. That's their problem."
Yeah.
She was like, "That's once again you trying to take on other people's problems."
Oh yeah, that is. You're doing that again.
So she's like, you got to stop doing that.
And this is why therapy is important, because sometimes we know things. We know things are happening. We don't know why they're happening.
Right. Because that's the main thing with therapy, with everything, is that the fact that what it's connected to and how far.
Yeah.
Like I was a little girl. I didn't even put two and two together.
Yeah.
But just those small things build up to like stuff that we do in adulthood, which has also pushed me to be way more cognizant of how I treat my children, because it's like I don't want to be one of their trauma triggers.
Oh, children and trauma triggers. We're gonna have to do a part 3.
Yeah, I do not.
Children and trauma triggers.
Yeah, because I've seen it like both sides.
Bro, do you believe that your children can trigger your traumas?
Yeah, and honestly, my children are me and my husband. So we both have twins. My oldest is my twin. My youngest is my husband's twin. My youngest is the clingy one to me, and the one that looked like me is the clingiest to my husband. So it's like we literally are still like attracting each other through our children. But what he sees, like what happens with my oldest, is he be doing stuff and I won't even respond because I see me. And like a lot of stuff that he be doing, I'd be like, I did that as a kid.
So you give him grace?
I give him grace, and in me giving him grace, I also educate him in a conversation. I'm not like going at him any kind of way. I try to have a conversation with him. I try to gentle parent the best I can. I really do. I will consider myself a gentle parent because I don't whoop them. They don't get whoopings.
Okay.
Now they don't get whoopings. I won't speak for in the future.
She changed it.
Because I'm a previous middle school teacher. I know how this goes. So
your kids aren't old though.
Yeah, it's like my kids aren't old. So I just have conversations with, really with my oldest, because I got a baby.
He's 4, right?
Yeah, he's 4.
Yeah.
I'm going on 5. I can't really have conversations with the 1-year-old. He don't know what I'm talking about.
But he does. Let people talk. That boy know what you're talking about.
But I have conversations with him and almost like giving him the the knowledge base behind it. Because what I feel like with us growing up, our parents would just be like, oh, do XYZ because I said so.
Yeah.
And that's it. But in therapy, I see that also becomes problematic because then you end up being a people pleaser.
I get you.
So I was raised in
Don't ask questions.
Don't ask questions. And in business, that's basically all you doing is
And
asking questions.
even in corporate,
Yeah.
even with, follow
like
these
a-
standards,
Yeah.
follow these objectives. You need to have these classroom rules, bare minimum.
Yeah.
Kids leave at this time, kids come back at this time. Your performance-based, what that thing called? What's it called? The cute, I forgot it. What's the teacher's?
Teaks.
Teaks. Yeah,
Yeah.
teaks. Gotta make sure that's right.
Make sure stuff on the wall how the way it's supposed to be on the wall. Make sure these scores looking how they supposed to be looking.
All about the scores, all about the performance.
And over time, yeah, that's fine, but I want to raise my boys to be self-sufficient and to not always like seek validation from what's around them, especially when you are born into a world that's already against you.
Makes sense.
So I'm just trying to like mentally strengthen them because I unfortunately know that hopefully it won't be like that, but let's be real.
Yeah.
I just want them to get to a point where they're good here first.
Yeah.
And they're strong here. For real strong here.
Yeah.
Not fake. Because most of us, we be fake strong.
Yeah.
I need you for real strong and like to be able to like logically see multiple perspectives and then be able to act accordingly.
I love that. And I'm going to end right there because when she talks about that whole multiple perspectives, that's another like core foundation of the House of Jazz podcast because I want to have conversations about regular things, not necessarily like business all the time, even though I'm in the marketplace in that space and a lot of people that you will see here are also. But I believe that it's important for us to share our different perspectives in a healthy way because you never know. Like, it's not my idea to change people's minds, but at least give them a different outlook on situations.
Right.
So that they can make a different decision if they so choose to, or validate what they already feel that they should do. Right. So I think that's good that you're actually raising your sons to be able to do that, to have different perspectives and be comfortable and confident in that. So that was good. I want to know from the people out there, one, what do you think about therapy? Are you in therapy? How is it helping you or not? Two, if you're in the marketplace, what has been your experience with these coaches, especially if you're in Atlanta? What has been your experience? Now listen, keep it cute.
Yeah.
Keep it cute in the comments. Don't be naming no people.
Don't be at folks.
Or unless you want to,
If you want
because
to.
you know what I'm saying. But we keeping it cute and classy here. You know what I mean? And number three, how are you raising your kids? Are you a gentle parent? I like to call myself a conscious parent because again, I was born in the South. So that reconditioning, that reprogramming of myself is, I ain't gonna lie, be a little bit of struggle because I understand. Because when I say do this, I need you to do this. Okay? But are you raising your children to have a thought process of their own, perspectives of their own, or raising them in a way where they can develop their own perspectives and go with whatever they feel is best for them?
And manage their emotions.
And manage emotional intelligence, baby.
Oh, Lord.
That's a whole nother episode.
That is a whole nother episode.
Golly. Other than that, you guys, thank you for joining us on the House of Jazz podcast.